Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So your girl is back again today with another video. So in this video we'll be starting a new series which is called the wedding planning series. I'm aware that there are a lot of young ladies and men watching this channel, and you could either be engaged or about to plan a wedding, or maybe just you're going to get married someday and these tips will help. So yeah, if you're living in Nigeria, Lagos precisely, and you're trying to plan a wedding, it could seem a bit tough or confusing, but with the tips we're about to talk about in this series will make the whole journey easier, and you could actually plan your wedding yourself. So the first episode of this series will be talking about the venue, picking a venue for your wedding. So to help me, I'll be using my notepad again. This notepad is popular on this channel already. So I'll be using my notepad because I wrote down some notes so I don't forget any of the points. So yeah, let's get right into it. Like I earlier said, when planning a wedding, it's important to determine where you would want the ceremony to hold. Would you want to do your wedding at home, or would you want to use an event center, a venue, whatever? So if you've decided that you want to do the venue at home, it's a lot easier. But once you decide that you want to use a venue, which could be either an event center or an outdoor event place, this would really be helpful. We've decided that we're doing our event in a venue, so it's important for you to think of your budget. The budget is the very first thing because it will determine the type of venues you have access to. I know that it's different in different towns, but you can use most of the tips I'm giving in this video for whichever location in Nigeria, but we're talking specifically of Lagos, Nigeria. So if you live in Lagos, you know that Lagos is divided into two, either the mainland or the island. So on whichever part of Lagos that you live, either the mainland or the island, you will have to decide which type of venue. You will see some people living on the mainland having their weddings on the island, and some people living on the island having their weddings on the mainland. What really matters is not where you live. What matters is which is most accessible for your guests and your budget. So your budget will determine whether you can do your wedding on the mainland or whether you can do your wedding on the island, as well as which place will be easier of access for your guests. So you can have maybe about 70% of your guests that live on the island and it's easier for them to access a venue on the island, then most likely it will be better for you to use a venue on the island. Same is the case if 70% or a higher proportion of your guests are easier of access to the mainland. It makes more sense for you to hold your wedding there, because obviously most couples don't come to their wedding venue from their house, so it doesn't matter where you live. What really matters is what is easier of access for your guests according to your budget. Don't think of your guests and forget your budget. According to your budget. Another important thing to consider is accessibility. So good roads and easy access to the venue. Whether you're picking a venue on the island or on the mainland, you need to know that it needs to have good roads and easy accessibility. So if you're picking a venue that when your guests are trying to locate this venue, they're going to go through a lot of hurdles, asking here and there, where is this place? It's not the most convenient or the most accessible. So whichever area, whether island or mainland, please make sure that it's easy of access and there are good roads leading to your venue. Another important thing is to know the type of event you want to hold. Are you holding an indoor ceremony or an outdoor ceremony? So if you know you're holding an indoor ceremony, then it's a lot easier. You can pick whichever of the venues we're going to talk about. But if you're holding an outdoor ceremony, then you have to look for events that host outdoor ceremonies. So there are a whole lot of them in Lagos, but today we're talking specifically about an indoor ceremony. So to discuss the various aspects, we'll be talking of your budget, the location, your guest size, and accessibility, as well as other amenities that come with the venues. So to do this and to be more interactive, I'm going to talk about various venues that I personally visited when I was trying to pick a venue for my wedding. So myself and my husband, we live on the island part of Lagos, and most of our guests live on the island or have easier access to the island, so it made sense for us to pick the island. So when we picked the island, we also narrowed it down because the island can also be broken down into zones. There is the Lekki VI Ikoyi region. Then after Lekki, you start talking of Jakonde, then Ajah, Shongutedu, and further till you get to the Lekki Ekpe axis, or even Ekpe. So you then have to pick again within those zones. It's the same thing for the mainland. You would pick either Ikeja or other areas, or you can go all the way down to Ikorodu. Goes back to what I earlier said, easier of access to your guests, your budget. So for us, most of our venues, we're looking around VI, Lekki, not so much Ikoyi because there are not that many venues in Ikoyi, but more of VI, Lekki, all the way down to Ikate, not further than that. Bear in mind, our wedding was holding in August. We all know that there's August break, but don't assume. It could still rain, so we have to make sure that it's not an area where once it rains will to be flooded and difficult of access. Time now came to start viewing venues. Obviously, there are some websites that you can use to check venues online and have an idea of pricing and all of that. But until you go and see the venues with your two eyes, please don't pick your venue from just an online website. So we started going to check out venues, and the very first venue we checked was the Balmoral Event Center. So this venue is in Federal Palace, VI, at Federal Palace. It's one of the venues within the hotel, and normally what they host there are, I've seen weddings there, but what I've mostly seen are like events, concerts, like parties. The venue is actually really big. Like it has over 1,000 capacity. It's really big. The pricing was good, I would say, according to our budget. It was about 3.5 million naira, which in dollars, as of the time we're holding our wedding, was about $6,400 or so. I'll put the exact figures. I'll put in the exact figures, and I'll also attach pictures and videos if I still have the videos. But if I don't, I'll be attaching pictures of these venues. So the pricing for that location, 3.5 million, was really good. Then accessibility perfect, the location perfect. However, there was one ick. The event center, because they use it mainly for parties and those, it was black. You couldn't see any space for lighting to come in. It was all around was a dark room. It was literally a dark room. So the only light you would have are the lighting fixtures they would put into the event hall. Now, according to the theme of your event, that could work, but we wanted something, I specifically wanted something bright white with greeneries, and that would not have worked for us. So though the venue ticked a lot of our points, it didn't work for our team. It ticked the location, it ticked the budget, it ticked accessibility and guest size, but for the theme of the event it was a no-no, so we didn't go with that venue. So the next venue we visited was Admiralty Hall, which is in the Naval Dockyard. Naval Dockyard is in VI as well. Now, so my husband, his dad is a retired Navy general, so that would have even been so perfect for us. Using Naval Dockyard would have even gotten a discount and stuff. So we're so eager to check out the venue. We went there. The first thing was accessibility and location. Like I said again, it's in VI, so tick tick. Then guest size. The venue wasn't big. Our guest size was about 500 to 600 guests, but the venue could conveniently host, let's say, 250, 300 guests, so that wouldn't have worked for us. It was actually airy and bright. I'll be attaching videos and pictures here and there, but it was just too small for our guest size. Also, accessibility wasn't the best because there was like a flight of stairs leading up to the venue, and that flight of stairs didn't look aesthetically pleasing to me. And also, if you have like older people coming to your event, you don't necessarily want them to have to climb the stairs up and down. It's different if you have a hall downstairs and there's a flight of stairs for extra sitting space upstairs. That's different. You can decide to put younger people up there and leave the older people downstairs. Also, in case of an emergency, no one prays for that, but in case of an emergency, it would have been difficult to leave the hall, so that didn't work for us. In terms of the amenities were really good. The changing room for the couple was quite big and nice. The bathrooms were nice. There was even a massive kitchen for your venues. I've never seen in all the venues I visited, I didn't see any that had an indoor massive kitchen, like massive. I don't think I have clips of it, but honestly it was massive, and it was the cheapest venue on our list. Actually, it was about slightly less than 2 million naira. I think 1.9 or 2 million naira, which is just about, I think Yeah, which is just about $3,700. So it would have been perfect both for our guest size and accessibility through the staircase. So we didn't go with this venue. Next up, we visited the Rose Tree Event Center. So it's located in Oniru, which is also in VI. So location was good. Accessibility was also relatively good. However, when we got to the venue, so basically you drive in, it's like an estate gate, you drive in through the gate, and we're looking for where to park. And actually they were like, okay, their car park is adjacent to the venue, so there's a land not actually just right beside the venue but adjacent on the other side, and you park in there and walk out and walk through the gate and come to the venue. That didn't make sense, but this venue was so beautiful. The hall was big. It was exactly like the type of theme I would want. It was bright with white walls and marble floors. I loved it so much, but accessibility was zero. The guest size was good. We just felt like it didn't make sense to have our guests going to park somewhere else and start walking out of it, walking into the estate to come into the venue. It didn't make sense for us, but the venue on its own was really good. Then another thing I didn't like, their changing rooms at the back of the venue was really small. It was, you would know that they are really managing the space. The changing rooms were small, and then the space for vendors, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't much. Also, my husband is Yoruba, so if you know anything about Yoruba weddings, food and drinks is number one, or number one and two, whatever you will call it, but food and drinks is number one. So there were a lot of vendors. You will have different people doing amala, different people doing the continental dishes, different people doing so many different food. It would just not have been enough. It would have been enough for like the drinks vendors, but for the food it wouldn't have been enough. So we didn't go with that venue. The price for this venue was 3 million naira, which was just about $5,500, and that wasn't bad. But for all these other things, we would have gone with this venue, but we didn't go with Rose. Stop was one of my favorite of all the venues. I didn't say my favorite. I think top two was one of my favorite of all the venues we're about to check, and this is the 5 Palm. The 5 Palm Event Center is located in Oniru as well, that's in VI. The location was really good. Accessibility actually was, my mother-in-law wasn't happy with the accessibility because you have to pass through this, I'll call it ghetto in Oniru to get there, but it was very well located. Everyone knows where the 5 Palm is. The 5 Palm is one of the most beautiful venues in Lagos. So we went in there and it was everything I had seen on their page. The venue was big, white, marble floors, perfect, and their outdoor, perfect. However, parking space. All they have is the little outdoor space, and it's really not much. It can't even contain 100 cars. I'm saying 100 cars is zero. It can't even contain 50 cars. I don't think it can contain 45 cars. So what they do is that they park people outside. And if you know that Oniru area, there are a lot of, I'll call them touts or something around there. So imagine parking outside in that area that I already described a bit as a ghetto. So you will get your guests being harassed and all of that. So we weren't comfortable with it, with the type of guests we're expecting. Another thing was that the space for the vendors was really small, and they didn't allow vendors to cook at the venue site. If you know anything about amala, you cannot turn amala somewhere else and then come and serve it. It won't be hot anymore. It will just not be amala on point as the normal Yoruba Ibadan people would expect it to be. So that was an issue. Other than that, their bathrooms beautiful. The changing room actually was not as nice as it should be for that type of venue. They said they were still working on it, but that the renovations will not have been completed by August, which was our wedding time. So it was just but the venue in itself, beautiful. The price for the venue wasn't cheap. It was 5.5 million naira, which I will convert it in dollars and said below, I think it's about $10,000. So that's not cheap. But if we were to pay that money, would have been happy if the parking was good, the changing rooms were good, and there was enough space for the vendors. So the food, the parking, and the changing room made us not pick this venue, but it's still a very beautiful venue. If you're going to be bringing in your caterers that don't need to cook there, it's perfect. If you're doing a wedding where you don't expect so many people, let's say 200 to 300 people, though the venue in itself is really big. It can contain 500 or 600 people, but in terms of the parking, if you're expecting less people, it's better. So for that reason, we didn't go with the £5. So next one was my absolute favorite venue in terms of this venue is the most beautiful venue in Lagos. It's the Monarch. My husband wanted this at all costs. He wanted it so much that he was willing to change the wedding date because of this particular venue. I think the way he wanted it so much actually made my desire for the venue to reduce, because I was like, it's not that deep. It's not the venue that determines the wedding. But actually, the venue is so beautiful. To me, the most beautiful venue in Lagos. So accessibility, it was great. It's located in Lekki, the Kate area of Lekki. So having access to it is right on the roadside. You can't miss it. Massive place. Everyone knows where the Monarch is. So that was a good one. In terms of the amenities, everything was perfect. Bathrooms, changing rooms, the hall in itself, everything was perfect. The only ick was the price for me. My husband was willing for us to pay, but I was like, anything you pay and you feel it like this, I don't think it's worth it. The price was 8 million naira, and that is for the venue, not including the outside space. So you couldn't get to use outside space, and you couldn't use, they have a hall upstairs for the after party. You couldn't use that. You would have to pay another. So if you were to use the outside space and the hall upstairs, everything would have been more than 10 million naira. We're a young couple. I don't think we can afford spending 10 million naira on just the venue. So for that reason, we didn't go with the Monarch. In dollars, that's about 14,600, almost $15,000 for the venue. I believe an older couple that's had more time to save, more money and all of that, it's the perfect venue. If you have the money, do it. You're a young couple as well, and your parents are happy to pay about 10 million naira for a venue, do it. It's great. But if you can save up that money and do other things, I would advise you to do it. But the Monarch was perfect, but we didn't go with it. The last one, but not the least, was Harbour Point. So Harbour Point is one of these venues that we had visited earlier on. I loved the actual venue, but I didn't necessarily like how to access the venue. But the venue in itself was perfect. I had my mind fixated on either £5 or the Monarch, but we ended up using Harbour Point, and let me tell you why. Number one, it's located in VI, which is easier of access. When I said how to access it, you go into the street, like 1 minute drive, if not less. But that was the only thing. And like I said, 1 minute drive, you're there. The parking space, oh my god, the parking space was massive. Even if you have a guest size of 1,500 people, they will still have where to park. It's massive. The hall in itself, we used the bigger hall. There are 2 halls in there. We used the bigger hall, and the hall in itself was massive, wide, open plan, beautiful, drapings up, everything that would work with my team. And the bathrooms were big, everything was perfect. The only thing is, I didn't like their changing room. The changing room, you had to like enter the other venue and walk upstairs. I didn't like how like slopey the staircase was. The actual changing room, I didn't like it. I was like, well, our hotel is not far. If it's just because of changing room, I'll take it. Then it was within budget. The cost for Harbour Point is 4.5 million. In VI, you won't get a venue at that price. Obviously, you got Balmoral, but did it look like this? No, it did not. So obviously, a venue looking like that for that guest size, it can hold about 1,000 guests. I think capacity is 1,000 guests, but with COVID measures, they advise you to go. So is it 60% or so of the venue size? But it was really big. So we decided to go with this venue for all the reasons I said, and I did not regret our choice. We had about 600 guests at the venue, and it didn't look cramped at all. There was so much space everywhere. It was airy and beautiful. I do not regret using this space. I will attach some pictures of what the hall looked like after decorating it. So it was really nice, and yeah, I was very happy we picked this venue. Yeah, some important points to note when looking for a venue in Lagos, Nigeria. Point number one, get a hall that has a bigger capacity than your guest size. Yes. So if you're expecting 300 guests, get a hall that has about 500 guests. You know, Nigerians don't go to weddings alone. You're expecting one person and person ends up coming with another person. Even in events where it's strictly an invitation, they don't bring an extra person. Now you set up 300 people, you have vendors, and the vendors are moving all around. You picked a venue that is exactly 300 people, your guest size is 300 people. You now have vendors. You realize that your vendors can be like 200 people. Yes. Waiters alone at my wedding, we had over 20 waiters, maybe for the food, not for the amala, not for the fish, not for the small chops. I mean the normal continental food. They were more than 20. So imagine the servers for the small chop, the servers for this, servers for that. Now your photographers are moving around, all the different vendors, the drinks people and all of that. It's a lot of people. So if the venue looks cramped and stuff, it will be difficult. Then if it's not strictly on invitation, we're expecting more people than. So we told ourselves we're expecting 500 people, but we planned for, in terms of food, more than 600, but in terms of sitting, 600 people sitting, and it worked. So please get a hall that has a bigger capacity than your guest size. Thing is that the space for your vendors is very, very important. Both the food, the drinks, obviously food is not just one vendor. There are different vendors for food. All that you need for the event, you need to have a venue that accommodates that. If you know they're going to be cooking at the venue, please ask before booking that venue, are we allowed to cook in this venue? Because like you can see, some venues don't allow that. The next thing is ensure that the bathroom is very big. The bathroom that your guests are going to use, that they are very big, because you realize that you have a few hundreds of people, not to talk of those that have thousands of guests though. A few hundreds of people in this space, they're eating, they're drinking, they're likely to go into the bathrooms in and out. So if the bathrooms are small, it would easily start becoming inconvenient for them to use it. So make sure you have big bathrooms and that your event center has cleaners that are always in the bathroom cleaning after people come in and out, so it maintains a certain level of decency and neatness. No, I must have said budget at least 100 times in this video, but it's so important. When picking your venue, remember the budget. You will see so many beautiful venues, so many nice looking venues in Lagos, but your budget, if you can't afford the venue, don't book it. As I spoke about all these venues, there are still venues in this Lagos that are 1 million naira. Yes, it now depends on the location. You can get a 1 million naira venue on the Lekki-Ekpe axis going up like Shangotedo, Aja, all those areas. You will get it. You could also get it in some parts of the mainland, Ikorodu, other areas. So don't put in mind that if I don't have this amount of money, I can't do my wedding. You can still work within that budget. You don't have to pay for an expensive venue to have a beautiful wedding. Another thing is the shocking things that you hear when trying to get a venue. You see all these prices we discussed, that's not the total package. Yes, there are still taxes you pay on top of these venue prices that already look so expensive. You hear all sorts of taxes. One that stuck with me is merriment tax. If you know the meaning of merriment, it's basically enjoyment. So they are taxing you for enjoyment. It looks so unbelievable, but when you're about to sign your contract with your venue, obviously if you're the one planning it, if it's your event planner that is doing everything, you may not know that there are all these other taxes. You will just find out that the venue is not that 4.5 million you heard of, it's so amount. So be aware of that. You're going to pay taxes extra on top of the venue price. Another thing with venues in Lagos is that they don't come with screens, they don't come with stage. So your person doing your decor would tax you extra money for that because they have to build a stage. They if you need to use a screen for display, they have to rent that in because the venues don't come with it. So be aware of that. Don't think that your decorator or your planner is trying to play a fast one on you. No, it's not the case. Also, the other thing is that most venues in Lagos anyways, they come with tables and chairs. However, the chairs are usually the issue. The table, not really an issue, except you want, because most of them have round tables, but if you want like rectangular tables, you'll have to rent that. But the chairs, most of these chairs are like conference hall style of chairs, which we all know are not aesthetically pleasing. So you end up renting chairs, not taking the chairs that came with the venue, but renting more chairs. So you can speak with like the events, like the venue manager and stuff. If they are kind enough, they will agree to give you a discount for not using the chairs that come with the venue. If not, you will still pay as if you're going to use the chairs and not end up using the chairs. But if you're comfortable using that white cover that you use and cover chair, that's fine. There's so many beautiful chairs. I can insert some pictures that people use for like to make the home even more beautiful in your decor and all of that, that you would have to rent separately. All in all, if you're picking your venue, remember once again your budget, location, accessibility, and your guest size. Every other thing you can work around it. So best of luck in your wedding planning endeavors, and hope to see you in my next video. The wedding planning series will continue with more episodes. Please comment in the comment section down below what would you want to hear next. If you like this video, please press on the thumbs up button, share, and please subscribe. Bye.